If you haven't seen part 1, here's the link to have a look at it. Go and have a look at that first before we get into part 2. But this one's a great one. 8 more points. They're going to help you master face-to-face selling. So the first point we want to focus on when we get to this element of engaging with someone again face-to-face is to clarify what's going on. And we want to be able to just do this by having a really clear agenda. That can be sent before the meeting or can be given to them on the day, or you can even use a conversation. I really enjoyed our conversation last time. I'd like to be able to clarify what we want to cover in the next hour, whatever it is, in order to make this a really effective use of our time. To get clarity on the agenda, make sure you've got understanding of what that other person wants to cover, what you're going to go through. Hopefully you've done that before you get to the meeting, so it means that you can be really prepared ahead to make sure you make full impact and best use of your time and theirs. The other key thing you might want to include in the face-to-face meeting is also who else should be present. So for example, sometimes I've had meetings with people where they've said, oh, I'm going to bring someone else into the conversation, especially if you've identified in the first session that there were certain people involved in the process. Maybe you're selling into a department, you're bringing the head of department in. Maybe you're selling into a different area and you want to bring a colleague in. I recently ran a session with an organisation. I was working with their L&D team. They wanted to bring one of their divisional teams in. So get clarity on who else is going to be in that meeting or who else could be there that could make the maximum use of time and make it efficient for both of you. So the final point, and what we want to be able to make sure we do in this meeting, is to clarify what the end goals are. In the first meeting you have with someone face to face, it's engagement and talking to them. But if you've had a second meeting, you really want to get clarity on what we're going to try and get to. You sort of put in the position where you're framing what can happen at the end and what it could look like. And being able to say to them, what I'd like to achieve at the end of this is we move to this stage, or we achieve this, or we do this. How would that feel for you? If what we cover today is going to be useful, how would you feel about moving to the next step? What you're trying to then do is get them to clarify and agree that they're happy at those goals. It's a key part of the process because you can then go back at the end and really go back and say, right, have we clarified what we said we'd do? Can we now move to that stage? Get ownership up front on what it's going to look like. And if it turns out they don't want to get to that point, at least you can adjust the rest of the approach you take. So once we've clarified our situation, we then want to be in a position where we want to show the other person and the buyer that we have actually taken some note and thought process of what was covered last time. One of the ways to start that off, I always think about what I would call the small points. Maya Angelou always said, people don't remember what you told them, but they remember how you made them feel. So one of the things I make a habit of doing when I'm engaged with someone is, oh, I know you mentioned you were going on a holiday recently, how was that? Or let's say they were taking their daughter or son out for a school event. Oh, I know you mentioned last time you were doing this, how did that go? Those small differences and conversations make a difference to people. It shows the buyer and the other person you were listening, you were interested in them, and it helps build that rapport that can drive face-to-face success in sales. The other key thing we want to then remember is also talk through the challenges. In the first meeting, you'll have talked through some of the challenges and issues that person's got. If you'd have done and followed the process in the right way, and I'll put a link to the first video here, you'd have gone through and asked questions to be able to clarify what's going on in their world. And in this position here, we want to remember, so when we talked last time, we discussed this, and this. How have things been since then? What's been happening? How have things going? Are these still, what challenges are these issues still presenting for you at the moment? We want to go back to the challenges they reference. It may well be that in the 2 weeks or time period that we've not been meeting with them, that things have changed, something's gone on, something's happened. And we want to be in a position where we understand that and notice that. And that leads me on to my third and final point here, which is actually about change. Has the situation changed? If you're selling into large organisations, people have budget changes. Have people left, for example, in the organisation? You might have remembered all of the key things that were going on, but has anything changed in that scenario? Have they found a solution? Have they been talking to another provider? What's changed since that time? So being able to clarify, since we last met, what's been happening, what's been taking place, how big has the problem been? Or since we last met, how have things been? How has the situation got worse? What's been the implication of that? We want to be able to talk about those elements and make sure that find out if things have changed. Because what we don't want to do is carry on down the path of then hopefully leading to a solution if things have changed from their side. So remember the small points, the nuances, the little bits of difference that can help you connect with the person, reinforce and reconfirm the challenges they've got, and just make sure that nothing's changed since the last time you spoke to them. If we do those things, then we can then get into the final third stage, which is probing further into the challenges and issues. So the third thing about selling face-to-face to someone is remembering that we've got to understand what's going on in their world. People think sales is about us, and it's not. I've said this time and time and time again. Buyers don't care for how good you feel they are, they care for what impact you make in their world. So there's 3 things I want you to probe on when it comes to looking at making sure that the conversations go really well. The first thing is this: pain. I know I've talked about this a lot of the times before, but 7 out of 10 people move from a position of pain. If your potential buyer has a problem and that is causing them significant challenge, they're going to want to do something about it. So probe and ask those questions again. Last time we talked about the issue around this, the challenge this was causing you. How's it been? What's been the implications? Tell me a bit more about what difference that's making at the moment, or what have you tried to solve that, or how has it been trying to fix that, or what's been the turn or the workaround you've used for it. Probe and find out what's going on with the pain. But also, as we come to the second point, is the impact. I have a specific video on these 3 subjects which I can link to here, but what's the impact of the pain? Try and find out what's actually changed since the last couple of weeks. Have things got worse? If things have got worse, it's going to make them want to see a solution. And the final element we talk about in the video that we'll link to is the priority. Where again does this fit in their priority list? Has something else changed in that time to make that issue more important than what they've currently got right now? Reed Hastings from Netflix always used to say the skill of an executive is to know what fires to leave burn. So is there a bigger fire that's come up since that time? You might have had that first meeting and there wasn't. Things have changed since that point. But if you probe and dig into the pain, the impact and priority for them, really understand what's going on beneath the surface. So when they say to you, well, we've had a challenge here, what's been the challenge? Tell me a bit more about that. What's been happening? And do that with empathy in the right tone and in the right way, you're going to find people are going to start to share more and more information. And as I've talked about before, your buyers are an onion. Peel beneath the layers, get to the core of the problem, and it's going to hopefully be in a position where they can then start to see the scenarios and what they can do to solve them. So point number 4 is, once we've summarized the situation, I think what you're in a position you can then do is start to indicate some scenarios. And the first way in which you can start to do that is to say no action. I would actually go to a buyer and say, look, we've got a couple of different options here. Option number 1 is no action. You carry on as you are, and you carry on to have this issue, which is going to cause this issue, which means this will happen. But when you start to give people a scenario and they start to consider what those elements are, they generally don't want to carry on that position. So they do want to move to a place with a solution in place that they can help them solve the problem. The second thing we want to then do is move to what we call a base case. A base case might be, so one of the things you might want to do is just stem the tide, or we will hopefully move to a position where we move to a best case scenario. So again, one of the great ways to be able to do it is to picture this. So if we can imagine a scenario in a couple of months' time where you've got this issue solved, how does that feel? Would it feel okay? Can you imagine a scenario in a couple of months' time where this issue is gone and you're now seeing X, Y, and Z benefits as a result of it? How would that look? And if you can start to be in a position where you can start to outline what these scenarios can look like, how they can come together, you're going to then be in a position to bridge to your solution and show them how it can happen. The key thing is giving people scenarios. People want options. They don't want to feel like they've been pushed into one single corner. By saying to them, hey, you've got an option to do nothing. Here's the base case that we could do, but here's the best case of where we'd like to get you to. Going to give people that dream. They're going to picture that scenario of where they can be, where the problem's got away and the world's great, and it's going to hopefully set them up in a position to then hear more about your solution. So point number 5 is all about the bridge. What do I mean by the bridge? Again, I've done a specific video on bridging, but bridging is literally there at this point in time. The prospect is here, your solution is here, and we have to bridge from one side to the other to get into that place. And the way in which we do bridging is done in 3 simple steps. Step number 1, permission. What I'll have done is, once I've talked through the different scenarios of where they want to be, I might say something like, I've really enjoyed our chat. Look, what I want to try and do is, would you be open for me sharing a couple of examples of people that have been in similar positions to yourself, in similar roles, in similar industries, who've then been in a position to solve these issues and get out from the other side. If you think about it, a bridge takes us from one place to the next. But what we've got to be able to do is get permission from someone. You should hopefully get a person in this meeting want to see the solution. They want to hear how you're going to make that go away for them. But the bridge is the best way to do that. But by getting permission, it also gets them to own it. Yes, I want to see the solution. It means they're going to be more committed, more ingrained in the process. They're going to be more likely to listen to you and hopefully take action. So what do we do with regard to the bridge? The key thing we want to then talk about is situation. So, as I mentioned, I had a client that's in a similar position to you. They're in a very similar industry. Their situation was they had this issue, and this issue. That was costing them this, and they were really concerned if they didn't do this, it would have this impact. That, by depicting a situation, and if you can share the name of the company at the time, great. Or in some cases, you may not be able to because of permission and contact information. But if you can give a detailed example, sometimes I'll give an example of, I'm working with a very large organization like this, this and this, you'll know who they are, but I can't say. So that gives an indication of the type of company, and this is their situation. This is what they were looking to do. They were looking to train their investment managers on how to achieve better sales results and to grow their business. And if they didn't do this, then the implications would be that they wouldn't grow, and that would cause problems. So what I'm trying to do is to outline the situation they're in, and you want to make that situation similar to the person you're talking to. If you're talking to a person here in a certain industry or a certain size of company, and the scenario that you share is one that's completely different to them, they're not going to connect and resonate with it. Try and make sure you've got scenarios and cases that are similar to the person you've worked with. And the final point, the bridge, is the end result. So we're in a situation where I'd like to be able to share some more information around an organisation that was in a similar position to you that solved this issue. This was their situation, X, Y, and Z. The end result is now, 4 months later, they're in a position where they're able to look and smile at things because all these issues have gone away. They're really happy, they're making the savings there, whatever the outcome is of your solution. Why is that important? It's really important because buyers don't always believe what you say as a salesperson. They generally think you're telling them lies to service yourself. So if we can give them situation and end results where people have gained major savings or efficiencies or whatever the outcome is from using your solution, they're more inclined to go, wow, this is real, this is true, this could happen for me. People don't buy things, whether it's face-to-face or even online, because they don't think it will deliver the results for them. So it's our job to bring that to life. It's our job to bridge from where they are, this indecision, this uncertainty that they've got, through to the place where they think, wow, this could actually happen for me. And we do that by outlining what the end result looks like. And that what leads us on to then the outline of how we then make that solution happen, and we can then talk through who we've done it for before. Those are the key points to get to the stage where we can then make that face-to-face selling part so much easier and hopefully get the buyer eaten out of our hands. So at this point here, once you've bridged, you normally find that a buyer's getting quite excited. They've got this problem, they're thinking that the problem's going to go away, and they're wondering, well, how can it happen? How can you put that solution in place? But there's a number of things that they're thinking in their mind. The first thing they'll be able to think about is, what is it that you offer? What is it that it does? How can that solution work? How does it operate? Is it a service? Is it a product? Whatever. They're looking for the how that you make that problem go away. And we've got to be able to outline, and obviously that's our service offering or product offering that you take to market, but the what is actually what you do and what it costs and what it looks like. But the other key two parts of this, which are really key, is the how. How do you make it go away for them? I'm in a situation where I will talk to people and say, look, here's the solution that I sell. The solution, like what I sell, is sales training. And the how, here's how I go about customizing the solution to make sure it works for you. And the third word that is key here is requirements. One of the things that stops people buying sometimes is if there's a lot of work involved, if they've got to put a lot of time in, if they've got to create more work their side, it's going to create some challenges and issues for them. So if I'm able to outline what it is I do, how it works, and also how what requirements are required from their side, and if I can include maybe options to say we can take all of that pain away from you, so we literally move them from the position of pain to the position of a solution, it's going to give them belief, it's going to make them think, wow, this is possible, this is doable, and it's going to make them more inclined to then think, I could make this happen, and hopefully make them think, yeah, I want to do business with this person. The key thing is to be able to show the how. This part is critical. If you can't show people how you're going to make something happen, maybe that's your step-by-step process, your methodology, your approach to doing something, it's going to give them that doubt. Bring that to life by showing them the methods that you use, and if you do that, actually show them what's involved from their side and make it easy for them to buy, it's going to be a great position to hopefully then give them evidence to then make the decision to move forward with you. So if you think about it now, in the sales situation, we've given them the scenarios and they want their best case scenario, we've bridged and given them a solution, and we've also told them how we're going to make it happen. The final thing here is about how do we give them evidence? How can we show them, by the way, it's not just our words that we're talking, it's the words of our customers that make sense. So the first thing you can include here is who? Who are those people? Now I understand in some companies, like I say, you may not have names and details of people, but I think one of the most critical factors to be able to achieve any sales success is to have some testimonials and case studies. People that will stand up and say how good you are and what you've done is critical to help all those other people believe that you can turn their situation and problem into a solution. So the question is who? You might be able to then provide some case examples of those people. You might be able to provide some names. You might be able to provide some quotes. You might be able to provide a testimonial. The key thing is details of who else has found that solution and made it work from the problem that they're in. And again, we've got to make sure that these people are in a similar position or a similar industry to the people we're talking to. The second point when it comes to evidence is also what impact did it have on them? If you can, within your case studies, be able to provide some evidence, some specific statistics, some stats that show the numbers, and then they can then back that up through, for example, a video testimonial or an image or a testimonial, that's going to have a huge impact, and again, giving belief to the current buyer, to the potential buyer, that this is going to work for them. Being able to give specific examples makes such a difference. We've been able to grow our business by 19% over the course of the last 6 months. Makes people think, wow, this could happen for us. Or we've been able to save 37% on our cost base as a result of this. It makes such a difference. And the reality is, when I was engaging a few years ago with an organisation that sold into a completely different product that I'd never sold into another organisation before, but able to show the impact and show exact details of the savings that they were going to get on their gas and electricity bill. This was a product that was sold into commercial laundries. It made a huge impact in bringing the other person to think this could happen for me. And we've got to remember that buyers will always buy from us. They'll buy from us whether we engage face-to-face or online if they knew 100% that it was going to work. If you could put them in a time machine and transform them to 6 months' time from buying your solution to the future, and they could see it would work for them, they'd say yes. They're just not sure. So we've got to be able to show them the impact of who we've made it happen. So the final point around making sure that you make the evidence come to life is to provide connection. What I've done in many cases is when I've been trying to engage with a new provider and talking about a scenario, the best way I've done, I've given them some examples of who I've done it for before, but I've actually used the phrase such as, don't just take my word for it, or don't just look at this video or this testimonial. Let me put you in direct contact with them themselves. Let me put you in connection with X, and let you two combine together to have a conversation around what we do. Why is that so important, again, in face-to-face selling? And that can sometimes involve bringing them on site or doing a site visit, for example, to another location. It just enables those two people who are similar like-minded people to connect and to then ask questions directly. I've even connected people up on a Zoom call and left the room for 15 minutes while they've then had conversations, and I've come back in afterwards and they've had their discussion, and literally they've then said to me, we've really enjoyed chatting to him. He was able to explain what you've done for them. I think it gives us a good position to move forward. By able to connect people together, it also enables them to network, especially if they're in a similar industry, which they like to do. But connecting people together shows real proof that your solution works. It's not just words or a video that might have been done a few years ago. It's a connection now that's real. It's a testimonial that's real, that they can think, wow, this can actually make a big difference and help me achieve what I want to. If they're doing it and it's working for them and they're happy to talk about it, it can work for me. And it's getting that trust in place that's critical to making the buyer say yes. So once we've got to that final stage where we've hopefully got them, given them some evidence of it, the key thing is then overcoming some objections. The reality is, in most buyers' mind, even though you've given them some proof, they're still going to have questions that are going to go on in their mind. They're still going to have thoughts. They're still going to have some things that make them think, oh, is this going to work for me? So one of the ways in which we can do that is to ask the what question. What could stop us from making progress here? What could stop this solution from working in your organisation? What could stop this being a success with yourself? What would stop you guys from being able to achieve this success? And what you're looking for is the objections or the potential challenges that could come up, which might be, we love the solution, but it's higher than we wanted from a budget perspective, or we love the solution, but we need to check with the department that's using it whether they'd be happy with it. Which then leads us on to our next question of who. The challenge sometimes is that other departments can get in the way of making sales happen. I work with an organisation at the moment who's literally in a position to make changes and impact for their financial team, but they rely on a manufacturing part of their organisation to get involved, to use the product in order to get the results. So the questions we'll be able to ask is, who else would we need to involve in this process to make it work? Who else can we get involved in the session? Who else could get in the way of us achieving the results? Most projects fail because other people come in and kibosh the end result, and we want to avoid that by dealing with the objections up front before we then get to the stage of hopefully going to the next stage. And the final thing is then why? Why is that going to get in their way? What's stopping that? And invariably it may well be people that have a personal agenda. It may well be that they've already got an allegiance to an existing company if they're working with someone. It may well be they don't want to change. It could be a number of reasons as to why. But the key thing that we've got to be able to do is get rid of and understand these objections before we then start to go to the next phase. If you understand these objections, get them out in the open. I've sometimes said to a prospect who said, look, let's be honest with each other. I want to work with you. We think there's a good solution. We think it can work. We think it's a good fit. What are the things that are going to stop us making progress here? And if you can use that to maybe build an internal champion or build someone that's committed to doing it, it's going to put you in a great position to deal with the objections before you go further down the line and try and do business together. The final step we always do from here is, as I said in video number 1, is to arrange the next steps. And it may well be the next step is a proposal, it may well be the next step's a meeting to talk through terms, it may well be that the next stage is to introduce them to your client. Get clarity on the next steps, but if you follow this process and the steps that I've given, you're going to be in a far better position to do the business you want to do. And at any point, it may well be that it's not going to work out, and that's fine. The key thing is we're never going to convert everyone, but if we follow the process that I've set over in video 1 and video 2, you're going to win more deals, you're going to be better at face-to-face selling, and you're going to make sure that you hit the targets and plans that you've got. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like, share it with other people. Let's get loads of people mastering sales in the right way, especially face-to-face. When they're selling high-value services and products, we want to be in a position to get people knowing what to do and how to do it. These 8 steps, plus my video number 1, are going to give you everything you need to be successful, to master sales and win business and take you and your company where you want it to be. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. But if you've loved the video, please share it with others. But thanks for watching. I really enjoyed sharing some ideas with you, and I can't wait to see you get the sales success that you deserve.